For more on the state of the nation and the worsening insecurity in the country, Dapo Akinosun, a senior advocate of Nigeria, joins us. First of all, this is an opportunity to say formally congratulations on you becoming a senior advocate of Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Now let's look at how things are actually playing out in terms of insecurity. Now there's been wanton killings and destructions of property happening time and time again. The security situation is getting worse. As a Nigerian, first of all, are you worried about how things are getting from bad to worse?
Definitely. It will be foolhardy for anyone not to be worried by the worsening state of security. The more difficult, the more dangerous it becomes, the worse for all of us. And I lived through the NSAS riots and protests, and it just showed us how vulnerable we all are. Everybody is a sitting duck in an explosive situation that we find ourselves. So it is important that something has to be done to address the security situation, and that has to be done very quickly too.
Okay, we say something has to be done, and we just heard Governor Fayemi saying that it's time to get tough on the causes of insecurity. But why does it feel as if we are walking in slow motion as regards this problem? Why are we just waking up to the realization that something has to be done about the causes? Isn't this something that we ought to have started off with years back?
It is sad that when you hear the governors saying that something has to be done or we're doing something, but the primary responsibility for a lot of these things start from the state. If the state governments were doing enough to engage the youths, it will reduce the restiveness. And I think the first port of call is the education system. When you talk of education at the grassroots, it starts from the primary school to secondary school. Many of these are controlled by the state. And unless the state does something to ensure that the children go back to school or are engaged in school, you will find that they find more reward in being paid cheap money to go and commit brigandade and steal, because there's nothing that sends them to school. A situation where you find school-age children trading on the streets is the beginning of the problem. So we have to go back 3 steps, and the states have to begin to make sure that their children are in school. Until we take charge of that, we can't even start talking about when they leave school and what they do, whether they are jobs or not. But when they are educated properly, then they can have skills that are teachable or trainable, and they can build on it. But right now, many of them are totally skillless, particularly many of the young people you find who all they do all their lives, when they grow up, they can only ride Okadas or things like that. They have no skills at all. So we have to find a way of teaching them skills to use.
All right, I would like to find out from you, because at this moment, this is very, very much old news, and we seem to have passed that. But do you still think it is imperative at this point in time to have the president address, or probably heed to the call of the National Assembly to address the nation? Because ever since that particular issue came to the fore and it was shoved aside, we've been seeing restiveness and also banditry going from critical situations to even more dire situations at the moment. Do you think at this moment in time that more than ever before, that this is an opportunity for the president to probably appear before the National Assembly to answer questions about the security of the nation?
Personally, I've wondered what the purpose or what the benefit of the president appearing before the National Assembly would bring. They have questions to ask. There are ways of asking the questions. There are means of communication between the executive and the legislature. I'm not sure what benefit it will bring, bringing him to the public there to come and answer questions that could have been asked. The budget has been sent to them. Those are areas where I think they could have insisted and say, come, let's discuss this budget. How much are you putting on security? But you and I know that many times when the budget gets to them, it is tinkered with, it is tweaked with, but not much attention seems to be paid to the issue of security. They have the oversight budget, the oversight function. How often do they look at what has been spent on this security men? Is it getting to the roots? And I think those are the areas that is important. It's not so much about making a show of we want the president to come and address us in public, but how are they using the powers that they have to ensure the oversight functions are being carried out? The monies that have been allotted to them, is it getting to what it should be done with? What are they doing about that before we start a show or charade of I want the president to come? I'm not sure that will solve the problem. The issues are deeper than just bringing the president to come and speak in public.
And that's an interesting perspective. Okay, speaking of using the powers that we have, as a legal practitioner of some experience, would you say that one aspect of addressing the problem would be to enforce the law against these criminal elements? Because when we see the recent story of criminal elements that took over the state of Unguwa Malamai in Katsina, there was an aspect of impunity in the way they went about it. So would you say that enforcing the law is a crucial part of stemming this growth in banditry and kidnapping?
Definitely. Unless there's enforcement, unless there are sanctions for wrongdoing, people will behave as if we're in Somalia or Sudan where there was no government for 20 years. What is being done about ensuring that those who are caught are adequately punished? Those who are punished, how do we sustain it? Do we carry the information through for people to see that this person that was caught has actually been punished? Because unless people know that there's a sanction for wrongdoing, they will do it again. And when people hear that nothing has happened, then others are encouraged to continue in that area. But if you know, and if you watch some of these television series in the UK and the US, you find that even if you commit a crime 35 years down the line, they will still get you. And unless we have that kind of continuity and following through, even with information in the press and people seeing what is going through, because sometimes these things are done, they are punished, they are sanctioned, but once we miss the headline news in the newspapers on the first 1 week, nobody hears anything again. So we need to be able to follow through and push the information and ask questions that what has happened to this case? Where is it now? And until we do those things and leave just the sensational stories, we will not be carrying that job through.
Sorry, just as a follow-up very quickly, what's your position on amnesty for reformed bandits?
It is a style that has worked in time past, and this has gotten some people to surrender. But whether it is still working now, it needs to be questioned. And that is part of the reasons why we need to do a holistic review and see, this strategy, is it working? Should we continue it? How long should we sustain it for? Because even if you grant amnesty and you reform them, thereafter what happens to them? Do you continue to pay them for life? Do you pay them for 1 month? Do you do it for 1 year? And after that, what skills are you imparting to them? I know some of them have been sent to schools abroad. When they come back, what happens to them? Are they engaged in society? How are you using them to even fight the same crimes that they were part of before? And I think those are things, people that need to be reabsorbed and monitored and make sure that they are useful to the society down the line.
Mr. Akiyoshi, I would like to draw your attention to this because you've tried as much as possible. The average Nigerian gets the feeling that they are losing their voice by the day, that their fears, their concerns are not being listened to. Because, for example, you said that is why some people would always clamor that they need to see actions or they need to hear from the government on the day concerning steps that are being taken. Because when you look at what is happening in Katsina, for example, some people are just lost because they are not seeing a clear sense of direction. And if you put that into context, in Nigeria, do you think that the government is doing enough in terms of their body language to help fight corruption, and not just corruption, insecurity here in Nigeria?
Well, you know, you're talking of two different things now, corruption and insecurity.
No, let's focus on insecurity now. Okay, leave corruption by side, insecurity.
Yeah, is the government doing enough to fight insecurity? Definitely, I think the government can do more. But if you also know, you need to ask, what are the challenges of government? How do they fight this? And part of it stems from, as you know, the salaries, the remuneration for those who are fighting these wars in insecurity. Are the soldiers properly paid? Are they paid on time? The money is voted to them. Does it get to the proper use? Those who are injured in the course of the fighting, do they feel well protected? Are their families cared for after this? That is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that are they getting the right ammunition? Are they able to secure the arms and ammunition at the right time? We've heard how American government is not selling and preventing the Nigerian government from getting arms when they need it. So you begin to ask that, what are the issues? How can it be resolved? From the state governments, what are they doing? They've started Amotekun in the southwest. They are the northern security agencies. What sins, what crimes can they fight? How will they fight them? What resources are available to them? I have thought that many of these young people who do not have jobs now, how can we find a way of integrating them into the security forces? How many of them are willing to join the Nigerian police? How many are willing to join the Nigerian army? How do we harness their youth, the energy that they have into providing security for all? And I think those are the areas where even the youth groups and youth movements need to start speaking up and moving forward and say, make us part of this security architecture. But it is not enough for all of us to complain and nobody is willing to take a step forward. We say the salary is poor, we don't want to join them. Can we all move towards making sure that the salaries are improved? But until it is improved, should we all just sit back and watch? And these are things that I think everybody needs to get involved in.
Okay, Mr. Akinosun, still on the issue of insecurity, it seems as though we're happy to move away from defining who these miscreants are and move into an amorphous zone of calling them bandits or calling them criminal elements. I just want to find out from you, is it not important that we identify the nature of these criminal elements so that we can better assess their motives?
Well, I'm not sure that they're that invisible. I mean, the criminal elements, we see them on a daily basis as well. There are people who, when they know I can get away with an offense, will do it. Many of them, we see them on the roads. They are begging you for arms in the morning, in the night. If they don't have enough to live with, they will take it from you by force. So it's not any rocket science. And if they don't get enough from stealing from you, then anybody that offers them 5,000, 10,000 to kill another person and gives them a gun, they will. So they're not very difficult to identify. What we need to ascertain with clarity is the source of their funding and their ammunition, because these things don't just fly into their hands. Somebody is funding it from somewhere.
Okay, you went towards funding because I was going to clarify for you and say I'm talking more about the more organized group of people in the Northwest. With the recent abduction of the 344 schoolboys, we were told and we saw that some of them were as young as 9 and you know, they seem to pledge allegiance to Boko Haram, but we hear less of Boko Haram now and you hear more of bandits. And even up until recently, we hear of some assertion that we have threatened bomb strikes in the Yuletide season. So who are these people that are threatening to bomb citizens of Nigeria? And who are these people that are co-opting young people to form a group that would go out and kidnap citizens of a state in Nigeria? So those are the people I'm alluding to.
Those are the questions we all wish we had answers to. But honestly, I mean, the earlier we all find the answers, the better. And sometimes you ask that somebody somewhere must be coordinating them. And I've often wondered, though, if we can track the source of funding for NSAS, is it possible to track the source of funding for these elements? But I also know that many of these things that are being done, the money will be laundered and will not be carried through banks. So how can we track it? Who has information? Many people who have information, how can we help government? If I give government or the army or the police this information, am I safe or secure after I give that information? How do I know I'm giving the information to the right persons? Don't forget that even amongst the army and the police, we have people who are sympathetic towards these causes. How do you identify those who are completely loyal to government? And those are continuing questions that keep these battles going on. Because if everybody was completely loyal to government in these battles, I believe it should have been over. But the question is that even among those who are supposed to be defending us, some of them are loyal and are paid by these opportunists. And don't forget that some of them were also employed by them and put in these offices by people who had been in government or in politics earlier. So it's difficult to know where the loyalties lie, even as a government going forward.
All right, I would like to find out from you as a legal luminary whether probably maybe stiffer penalties, stiffer punitive measures, stiffer or probably sounder legislations can help curb the spate of insecurity we are witnessing right now.
Punishments will definitely help, but it's not just creating the punishments, it is ensuring that it is enforced. People have been in prison before and have broken out of jail. People are awaiting trial for 5 to 10 years sometimes, and you're wondering that if the judgment doesn't come quickly, then they will suffer. How can we expand or help the judiciary to complete cases faster? What can be done to make those cases conclude, and when they are concluded, the prisons can accommodate them? Correction centers are filled already. Accidents are happening in correction centers. What can be done to strengthen the prison system? Can it be franchised out? Can it be privatized? Are there ways we can copy what has worked in some other countries and find out, okay, so if this is now privately run, can it hold the people better? Can it maintain the health standards better? And those is a much larger problem than just changing the punishment. If I change the punishment and put more people in prison, but they escape in 3 months, has that solved the problem? No. So it's a larger problem, and we have to think of it holistically.
Okay, still on the insecurity issue before we move on to other issues. What is the position of the law in terms of protecting people who see themselves as EndSARS victims? We hear of DJ Switch, who is currently in exile, claiming that the government are threatening her security. And we hear similar stories amongst other EndSARS victims. What is the position of the law in terms of offering them some kind of amnesty or protection whilst we're getting the situation resolved?
I'm not sure what the law is that even affects them, because they have moved around freely, they are speaking freely. So when you say that, what is the position of the law as regards protecting them, I'm not sure whether there's anything that truly jeopardizes their security. It is a suspicion that many people carry that, well, if I come back, if I'm around, I may be picked up. But even the last man, I think that was picked in Lagos, when the matter got to court, he was released by the court. So I do believe that if the matters are properly handled and even taken to courts, the NBA has offered free legal services amongst other lawyers who are willing to defend them. So I think the earlier people just come and confront the situation, everybody will see the truth. But with the attention on it, I do not think anybody will take any silly risk of jeopardizing the lives or the health of the people who are in the forefront of this.
All right, let me put it this way, because we know that another election cycle is fast approaching, 2023, and some are saying that we've tried the House of Presidency. It might not have helped in curbing insecurity here in Nigeria. We've tried a Yoruba presidency, might not have helped. Maybe an Igbo in 2023 might just be the solution or the silver bullet that can bring down the dragon.
I think that is ultimately in the hands of the electorate. And as I have said to people, many of us complain about who should be president or who should be governor. But what steps are you taking to ensure or to determine who does it? Many of us don't even have voters' cards. Those that have voters' cards do not go out and vote on election days. But it goes a bit beyond that. We need to get involved with the elections from the grassroots level. Many of us need to go and join the party at ward levels and determine who is going forward as a candidate. But as long as all we do is criticize it on social media and on the newspaper, then we're not going to move forward.
No, maybe you could speak to zoning, the issue of zoning, which seems to have been a kind of adopted practice and taken for granted amongst the political class as a way of equitably distributing the leadership. What's your position on zoning?
I mean, well, I think on zoning, it has been discussed among the parties what zone should be. And that is why I said, I'm not a card-carrying party member yet. However, I know that the parties have had those discussions internally. And if there are agreements, I believe parties should stick to agreements that they've had. Part of the problem is when you have issues of godfatherism and people falling out, it's just a failing to stick to agreements. If you have an understanding that takes you into a place, then by all means, honor the agreements. It's a lack of integrity and lack of honoring agreements that leads to the issues we have. But if there's really a zoning policy that has been agreed to, then why not?
All right, many thanks to you, Dapo Akinosun, for your time here on Newsday. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria who has been speaking on the state of the nation and the insecurity here in Nigeria. Thank you very much for your time here on Newsday.